Good morning, Dan and Amy. So Trump is always the last to know. I mean, I love the response from the crowd in North Carolina. Sometimes in the heat of the debate, you say the wrong thing, you use the wrong word, and they laughed. Like, right, we know that. We got that. But it's nice that he acknowledged it explicitly. Our next guest, Byron York, who's the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner and a Fox News contributor, had a really interesting piece that I've referenced a couple
Several
times this week. Yeah, well, because I think it was on point that Hillary is kind of running a very boring campaign where she doesn't say a whole lot, and she's got this canned stump speech that Byron York distilled quite nicely. But against a Trump of the last several weeks, being boring and staying out of the fray and out of the headline, so the campaign is a referendum on Trump's controversy du jour, made a lot of sense. The question now is, if we're seeing a new and improved Trump, as we've seen over the last 2 weeks, from his speech in Detroit on economic policy to ISIS this week,
reaching out to the African Americans in Milwaukee in his law and order speech.
Right, and to being on script even at rallies, and including now what certainly for Trump would be considered an act of contrition. Can she stay so boring, or has the battle been joined by a viable Trump? Well, we'll put that question to our friend Byron York from the Washington Examiner and also Fox News contributor. Byron, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, folks.
Good morning. So what about that? Can, per your piece, can Hillary afford to stay boring if we see this new and improved Trump we've seen this week for the next 10 weeks?
Well, it was easier for her to do that with Trump shooting himself in the foot and then the other foot. Whether she can do that if Trump actually gets better depends, first of all, on whether Trump gets better. He gave a remarkable speech last night. A lot of people thought a very good speech last night in Charlotte, and that's on top of a very well-received speech on Tuesday in West Bend, Wisconsin, and a well-received speech the day before on national security in Youngstown, Ohio. So, if Trump actually improves his game, then Hillary Clinton will actually have to respond. And I think, actually, we saw her, yesterday, meeting with law enforcement officials in what was seen a little bit as a direct response to Trump's law and order speech, that speech in Wisconsin in which he reached out to black voters and also emphasized heavily law and order. So, whether she has to change actually depends a lot on whether he actually can change.
Who do you think is responsible for this new Donald Trump? Was it Kellyanne Conway, or is it Steve Bannon, or is it both of them?
Well, I don't know. We've had a lot of talk about Trump pivoting in the past. He's going to pivot now. He's going to become presidential now. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen. And so this could be a false start as well. I do think that the speeches he's given so far, especially the last night, has raised questions about some of the reporting we saw originally when Trump brought in Steve Bannon to head the campaign and promoted Kellyanne Conway to be his campaign manager. And some of the reporting was, well, Trump wants to have someone let Trump be Trump, and he's going to go back to being that original wild man you all loved. Well, that's not what we saw last night. You saw a candidate on teleprompter saying some things that he's never said before, the big one being expressing regret for rhetorical excesses in the past. But there was a lot of other different stuff in that speech as well. He talked about Americans working together in a way that he I believe, has never done before. So this was not sort of a return to the old Trump of the primaries. It was a different style Trump. And as always with Trump, the question is this the way it's going to be from now on, or does he go back to being what we know of as himself, or what?
Right, and so today we've got more of the new and improved Trump, at least in terms of picking the right place to be at the right time, going along with Pence to visit the flood-ravaged areas in Louisiana while the
you make a good point. And Trump actually opened his speech last night with an expression of concern and unity over Louisiana. He didn't announce from the podium that he's going to visit Louisiana today, but the news got out. Clear contrast, an intentional and clear contrast to the president who continues to play golf in Martha's Vineyard during this whole flooding crisis.
And to Hillary, who's taking the day
Right.
off. She's not even going to be speaking again until Sunday.
Yes, exactly. So this is, what's interesting about this is a lot of what Trump said last night and the idea of going to Louisiana today, it's kind of political boilerplate. I mean, it's kind of standard procedure politically. But since Trump has been so unconventional and declined to do that kind of stuff in the past, it's genuinely newsworthy when he actually does it. And I think he's clearly doing it now.
Yeah, I want to see him put waders on and get in with the people and with the rescuers and just feel their pain. I know that's a completely woman chick thing to say, but I just want him to be able to relate to the common people, to the everyday person, and that all those people are suffering, and a lot of them have been displaced from their homes. How do you think he's going to approach this? I don't think he'll do a flyover in the Trump plane. Do you?
Well, no, I don't think he's going to do a flyover. But I think you raise an interesting point, the whole waiters idea of, how much do you go down there as a show of concern and meet with people? How much do you try to make it a photo op?
Yeah.
I think the waiters would certainly be in the photo op category. So the question is how Trump will actually handle this. And perhaps one of the bad things for him is he doesn't have much practice in this kind of stuff. Politicians, and I've watched many of them, politicians get better, the good ones get better as they do stuff over and over again, as they practice things. Well, this kind of visit is not something Trump has done a lot. So we'll see how he handles it.
Yeah, you don't want to Dukakis in a tank moment, putting him in a situation where he's,
that's right.
kind of a fish out of water, so to speak. Well, I mean, just kind of continuing on that line, the Hillary, the approach to Hillary from Trump and from the party more generally, you've got a few kind of narratives on parallel tracks. One is Republicans in Congress pursuing this perjury case against Hillary, and another is the issue of Hillary's health. Do the Republicans and Trump, do they risk getting sidetracked by focusing on Hillary's health and questions about Hillary's health and release of medical records? Should they be focused on the perjury case and just continuing to kind of rinse and repeat and remind people that she is untrustworthy, because it puts her in a difficult position to win if 65% of the American public doesn't find her trustworthy come November?
Well, I think you said it. It's clearly an important public issue if Hillary Clinton lied under oath about the email system. It's an important public issue what she told the FBI about the email system, specifically because handling of classified information can be a criminal matter. It has been a criminal matter in the past for various members of various administrations. So that's clearly a matter of real, legitimate public concern. As far as the Hillary health stuff, I think you should probably go back and listen to what Newt Gingrich said yesterday on Fox, which is, let's leave the TV doctors to say whatever they're going to say. Mm-hmm. First of all, people should wish that Hillary Clinton be in good health, like they would wish for anyone else. Second of all, these are doctors who haven't examined her. They don't know anything about her condition, and all of this speculation that's going on. It's like the psychiatrist and the psychologist talking about Trump, never having met the man. They, it's not something that anybody should pay much attention to. It's certainly not put any weight on.
I was reading your article today in the Washington Examiner talking about the word together and how Donald Trump, how many times did he say that again last night compared to the Republican convention?
It was interesting. He said it 7 times in his speech last night, and it was if you go to the Democratic convention and listen to Hillary Clinton or other Democrats, they talk about better together, together, together. They say it all the time. And Trump last night, we are one country, one people, and we will together have one great future. I'd like to talk about the new American future we are going to create together. This isn't the fight of my life. It's the fight of our lives together to save our country. So he says this 7 times, and go back to the convention speech in which he accepted the Republican nomination, he says the word together once, and and the speech is much more known for him saying, "I alone can fix the nation's problems." So this was a very, very different message from Trump, probably a much more popular politically message.
All right. He's Byron York, the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com. His stuff is always worth checking out. Also a Fox News contributor. Byron, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning.